Hello and welcome to another activereach technical tutorial video. Today we are going to look at Cisco switch port security and how it can help us to ensure that only the permitted devices can connect to certain ports on a switch. So we have a simple topology setup here. We have a layer 2 switch with two hosts directly connected. 10.10.10.1 with this physical MAC address and 10.10.10.2 with this physical MAC address. The layer 2 switch can recognize the connected devices by their MAC address. As we can see here in the MAC address table for dynamic entries, we've got on port 1 and port 2 we've got these hosts which can be seen by their physical MAC address. And if we go over to host 1 and send a ping over to host 2, we can see that connectivity is working, and also from host 2 to host 1 we can see that IP connectivity is functioning as expected. So far so good. And if I disconnect the cable from host 1, so that host is now down, and you can see the switch is confirmed as down. If I connect another host to that port with the same IP address, it's a Windows machine rather than a router which I'm using for the host before, then we'll see that IP connectivity between the two hosts will re-establish. After a few moments we'll be able to get a response from the new host 1. And we'll also see in the MAC address table, we'll see that the physical address now for host 1 has changed to this new device here. There we have it. We now have IP connectivity, and host 2 doesn't know any the wiser. It's just operating as it should on a network. And this is by design for the default behavior of networks. But we may wish to prevent this. So how can we make sure this switch will only allow this MAC address to connect to port 1 so that other devices just can't come in and freely use it? And that's what we're going to show. So before we enable switch port security, let's take a look at the show port security outputs on the switch. So at the moment you can see there's no output in there, and we can also do a show port security address, which will show the current addresses and which ports are assigned to, and we can also do a show port security for the interface. And you can see at the moment that it's showing as disabled. So there's no port security set up currently. So let's go into our configuration mode, into that interface. So to enable it, we just do switch port security. When we try to do that, it will reject it because we can only do this on access ports. We can't do this on the default configuration. So the first thing we need to do is change it to switch port mode access, like so. And then we can enable switch port security. But we don't want to do that just yet anyway, because if we do that, by default it will learn the MAC address of the device that's already connected. And we don't want to do that because we want to enable it for our original device, which was this one, and not the new one which is currently connected to this one. So first off, we'll do switch port security, and if we just have a look at the options there, the one we're interested in is the MAC address one. And we just type in the MAC address of the device that we want to allow, which is that. Copy and paste that there. So we've now allowed that MAC address to connect to this port, And if we now enable switch port security by doing switch port security, and so what you can now see, because the MAC address that we've entered in there doesn't match the one that's currently on there, what's happened is the switch has detected it after a few seconds and has put it into error disable state. So it's showing you here a port secure violation error has occurred on port 1 and has been put into error disable state. And it's told us the MAC address that's caused it, and it's showing us that the line protocol for that port has gone down. So let's have a look at the same outputs again now for our port security. So you can now see that there's one address in our port security table, and we've had one violation, and that the security action that's been taken was a shutdown. We can see that this is the address that it's looking for and that it's been secure configured on that port. And we can have a look at for interface GI01. Port security is enabled. The port status is now secure shutdown, and it's in shutdown violation mode. So there are other violation modes you can have, but we're just going to be demonstrating how to shut down the port. So the only way to now bring this port back up after this violation has occurred with the current settings is for an administrator to connect to the switch, go into that port, shut down the port, and then bring it back up again. Of course, if we do that now, it will just shut down again because we haven't put the correct host in there. But if we now put the correct host in there, so I'm going to take out the cable for the bad host, as it were, and I'm going to put in the correct device, and we're going to see if this works. Okay, so we need to go into configuration mode, we need to go into that port, we need to shut it down, and we need to bring it back up. So that will come back up in a second, and it should now be the original host, host 1. There we go. And let's see if we can ping it from host 2. Just send a ping back in the other direction from host 1. So at some point IP connectivity will re-establish between these two devices. Just takes a few moments on this lab for IP connectivity to wake up. There we go. And we've now got IP connectivity again. And if we have a look at our MAC address table, we can see that for the dynamic entries, it shows now as a static entry, not a dynamic entry, because effectively we're only allowing this MAC address. So it's now a static address rather than a dynamic MAC address entry. And if we have a look at show port security, you can see the violations have now gone because we shut the port down and brought it back up, and that resets that count. We can see there that the port is secure configured, and if we have a look at the interface, we can see port security is enabled and it's secure up, which is the state we want to see it in. And I forgot to show you as well, let's just switch back to our naughty host and just let that switch go back into its air disable state. So I've just done that again now. So in a few seconds the switch will get unhappy with this device and it will give us the violation error. There we go. What I wanted to show you, which I just forgot a minute ago, was if you have a look at the interface output on the switch when it's in this state, you can see here Gigabit Ethernet 01, which is the port we've secured, showing is down, but you'll see this bit in brackets. When it's hit this state, rather than it saying that it's just down or administratively down, which is what would happen if you shut it down in the config, you'll see it enters this air disabled state. So that's also worth knowing as well. However, it is possible to spoof a MAC address. So I wonder if it's possible using the Windows machine. If I go into the network card settings, and go to the hardware address. There we go. And if I spoof the address that it wants, which is 001C 5818 8210, and OK that. So now, if I go in and shut this down again, and then bring it back up again, I wonder if it accepts my spoofed address. Let's have a look. So I'm now just looking to confirm that my IP connectivity is going to start working again. There it is. So yes. So while this is a good security feature, you have to bear in mind that if someone's got the know-how and they also know which MAC address you've secured onto a port, then they can spoof their MAC address and still masquerade as that host. So as you can see here, we've demonstrated how to enable port security and also possibly how somebody might circumvent that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that's been helpful to you.